Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. Laurel and I have a great episode for you today. It's one that's near and dear to our hearts, and it's something that we both have practiced a lot of, and that is taking time for reflection. It's so important when we're talking about inner work, when we're talking about beautiful work, when we're talking about what it takes to create a beautiful life. You must build in reflection time, mustn't you, Laurel?
Yes, it is so important. And it's a little frightening, let's be honest.
It is at the beginning. It is at the beginning, but it transforms. I would say, I don't know, for me, it was pretty quickly that it transformed from being frightening to a place of comfort. And I think I want to say, I'm going to put this out there right now. I might change my mind before the end of the episode, but I feel like this is coming in pretty strong. I think it was a big factor in developing an inner sense of safety and security, journaling. What do you think?
Absolutely. I do. I really do.
How do those two things fit together, Laura? Let's talk that out in the real time, right now, right? I think I think it's getting to the core of what your truth is. Maybe that's a piece of it. What comes up for you when you think about that, making that
Um,
connection?
Having a safe space to use your voice, even if it's in written word, right?
Right,
Because
right.
oftentimes, that self-reflection, we tap into things that we're not courageous enough to share outwardly with other
Mm-hmm.
people,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so creating that safe space. And, I want to say that even if it doesn't feel safe to put your thoughts and reflections in words on paper, you know, you can put it on paper and then get rid of that paper, right?
Hmm.
That's a great self reflection practice is writing,
Yeah,
writing
yeah,
all your thoughts and words and feelings and just getting it all out
yeah.
and then releasing it maybe by burning it, right?
I know I have burned many a things in my day. And
Me
I
too.
know in my journal, over time, I also wrote letters that I never sent. They were unedited versions of what I really wanted to say to somebody, but didn't really feel like it was appropriate to send. And I might have modified it and sent something else, or I might have had conversations based on what I got to, in that unedited letter writing. Um, but I love the idea of unedited writing. And I think I love that term. I know other people, I think I've read other people using other terms for it, but I love the unedited. It's just, it is a stream of thought that you don't edit in real time. You just let it come, whether there's swears in it, whether there's accusations, whether there's, no forgiveness in anything that you wrote, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just a thought. It's just a
Yes.
feeling and a thought twisted up together, and it's best to get it out on paper. Yeah.
And I love that you brought that up because, self reflection often implies this gentleness and this softness and kindness. And
Yeah.
it doesn't always come out that way.
No, it doesn't. And I remember reading at one point too, and this was more, I think, during my counseling time when I was studying a lot of my doing my counseling psychology work, about how, a lot of times we have this thing about, oh, to get your anger out, you need to go down in your basement and throw plates against the wall or something like that, right? Pound a mattress. And, they've done some research. And so they discovered that actually writing angry thoughts is way more therapeutic than pounding a mattress. And so that's really interesting for us to reflect on and think about. Yeah.
Well, and when you think about the connection with the writing, it's a type of communication and it really does free up that, our throat chakra, right? Because
Right.
even if
Right.
we can't speak the words,
Mhm. Yeah.
getting them out of us in a written form is a beautiful practice.
Right. And it's an activation. It's an activation of the throat chakra. It's an activation of the energy moving from lower in the body. First, so our hand is connected to first chakra. right? Our limbs and our hands, our first chakra. So it's going taking it from first through first chakra right out, right through fifth, sixth, like coming up the whole channel of the body and out to be processed energetically, which is so
Yes,
effective. Yeah.
it is, especially when you think that first chakra is associated with safety and belonging,
Yes.
right? And so
Yes.
it's like, how
Ooh,
can
ding, ding, ding,
you,
ding.
how can you create a safer space for yourself, through the activation of your throat chakra, by releasing that which you might hold or is blocked in your root chakra.
Right,
Oh,
right. Yeah,
so good.
yeah. And also, I think that one of the other huge benefits for me, that is never to be underestimated, is how much conditioning we've had to present and become the person that's walking around in the world today, right? And when we take time for reflection on our conditioning and on our beliefs and on our real feelings and our real, true, deeper thoughts, we begin to unwind some of this conditioning that keeps us from living more authentically and true to ourselves, true to our heart and soul, and what our heart and soul came here to do. And so that unwinding, I think, is really, really important. Yeah.
I do too. And,
Mhm.
the type of self reflection and journaling writing that we're talking about, feels really powerful. Like there's a lot of emotion behind it, or even passion, or it could be
Yeah.
rage, right?
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things I think that it's also important to incorporate in a practice of self reflection is just simply noticing without
Mhm.
the
Judgment.
emotion, without the judgment,
Mhm.
without the shaming or blaming or judgment, right?
Yes.
Without
Yes.
but just noticing in a way that, and this is where I can honestly say, when I started keeping a journal in 1977, I was in eighth grade,
Well, I love it.
and it was not a lot of self reflection. It was so much more of noticing my emotions and my environment and my experiences.
Mm.
And I still find a place for that in my self reflection and my journaling now. It's a
Yeah.
mix of whatever it is that's coming through, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to just share for anybody who doesn't know, I have a journal, the Your Inner Power, the journal, which is connected to my work, the body of my work, and this is an awesome journal. If you never know what to write in a journal, this is a great place for you to begin your journaling. It is every page has got questions on it, and it takes you through the 8 practices of the Inner Power Wheel. And the reason it came up just then, Laurel, is one of the exercises that I encourage people to do. One of the journaling exercises, as we're working through forgiveness, if forgiveness work is can be so complicated. We've done a couple shows now, I think, on forgiveness, self-forgiveness, and forgiveness, so go back and listen to those. But it's a process, and it's not something that happens immediately. It's not something that happens usually in one sitting or one talk with somebody. And the more traumatic the experience, the deeper the work and the more involved the work is. But one of the exercises that I like to do in a forgiveness process to help detach ourselves from the emotion of the experience and the actual experience itself is to do just what you said. Is it doesn't need to be a lot of emotional, but it's more just the facts. Just right, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then I did this, then they did this, and then they did this, and I did this. And so that you can kind of, it's almost like objectifying the experience to a certain extent to get yourself detangled from the what can be very, very emotional and hard to process and release from our being, because the emotion keeps it very tangled in your nervous system. Yeah.
It really does. And then
Yeah.
the other thing that I often think about is describing, an experience in as it relates to your five senses. You know, the
Yeah.
experience and how it felt to touch,
Yes.
how it looked, you know, how it smelled, what how it sounded, right? Like
Yeah.
those sensory perceptions of your experience allow you to process it without that emotion.
Yes, yes. And it also, and interestingly, it also can help you understand your emotions and learn your emotions a little bit better. Because I know I love, again, a journaling exercise in the book is learning how to, when you're in an emotional state, right, is going through all the levels of how your body is experiencing that. So, what are the physical sensations? So, if you're super angry, where are the physical sensations in your body? And then going to what is the stream of thinking that is happening, and then what's the emotional experience, the energetic the more intense, passionate kind of, so it's taking all the layers and being able to look at them and saying, oh wow, I'm not just mad, I'm in a rage state right now, right? Or wow, this is just, as I write, I realize this is just a constant irritation in my life, right? So being able to like get clear about how am I experiencing it? And then when the body is sending the signal, we know more readily, oh, I'm feeling irritated right now, rather than just feeling like I don't know what's going on. I'm, confused or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So it helps us understand ourselves.
It does. Let's talk for a minute about the value of self reflection, not just with your emotions, but maybe with your physical being. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
I want to share with our listeners that um, oftentimes meditation just is a time to self reflect on who you are, a kind of how you're showing up in the world, um, what your gifts are, right?
Hmm.
Um, what your path has revealed to you.
Hmm.
Another practice I use sometimes for self reflection is a walking meditation. And if you're not familiar with a walking meditation, it really is walking where while you are walking, you focus in on each part of your body. So you might focus on the feeling of your right foot as it moves on the earth, right? And then your left foot and the focus then on, your calves or your thighs and how you're holding your hands, your palms of your hands, or you just move up your body through the entire body as you're walking. And it brings you right back into this place of reflecting on your physical presence in the world, which
Yeah.
is
That's
so
very,
powerful.
very powerful. And it takes us, again, I can't say this enough. We can't say this enough in the show in terms of the possibility of transformation for yourself is to stop living in your head and get into your full body. That,
Which is
living in our heads is a source of confusion, anxiety. Like, I mean, there's just so many things there when you're just living fully in your head. So, yeah, this self reflection time is a time to come down into the full body, bring full body presence, our mind connected to all of us, right? Breath, hands, feet, pelvis, like really connecting internally and sensing our whole presence and our whole being in the world rather than just being a talking, walking head. Yeah,
it's so good.
so good. So good. And this idea of knowing that the body has incredible wisdom. It knows, I mean, we know it senses danger, well before it's coming to us. We start to get the sensations. And so how do we honor that and keep, keep tuning into being a better receiver of all the information and then a better connected to it all so that it can be what we talked about last time, a great guidance system for surrendering to guide, being in touch with a greater guidance we can trust and not have to force our will day in and day out, which is exhausting actually. Yeah.
Yes. And what I love about what you just said, it's like, if we are open through a practice of self reflection, that inner guidance or inner wisdom that I believe comes from somewhere outside of me, the universe, the great spirit. Um, maybe it's that the gift that comes from a universal power bigger than myself that comes through me to be brought into the world. And if I am not tuned in to my body, if I'm not open, I don't stand a chance of receiving that or being able to share that. And so it really has been a practice of embodied self awareness, self reflection of my thoughts and my emotions that has allowed me to open up. Because as you said, our bodies are so wise, we can sense danger before it even happens. And I believe that we can also sense love and goodness and all of the spectrum
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
fear to love if we just allow ourselves to be a little bit more open.
Yes. One of the things that I feel like I've been aware of for many years, and I think I think I may unconsciously be on a little bit of a mission to hone this practice a little bit more. Is I always feel like I can I know when somebody is going to connect with me, right? It used to be like a phone call. And I had this one person in my life that it came in really strongly with that was made me pay attention to this, right? Years ago, many years ago. And now I do feel like it's almost like the energy of that person, is wanting to reach out and connect with me, and it comes to me before the phone call comes in, before the email, the text, whatever it is. Now there's so many forms now, it's crazy, but before, it used to just be calling. and and I feel that. Do you sense that too, Laurel? Do you get that at all?
I don't know that I do. I can say my mother had that ability and could
Mm,
often sense something that was going to happen before it happened. And
yeah.
um, I mean, I can, yeah. And there were times when I thought it was crazy that what she predicted actually happened. Um,
Yeah.
but it is
Yeah.
so true that how do we open up,
Receive. Right?
right?
It's so much about receiving. I think that's
Yes,
one of the things. And I think that in our culture, we're so groomed to put forth, right? To produce, to do, to send our message out to the world, right? And particularly now with social media, there's so much of that. And so to be a good receiver is a very different, being in a very different state than that. Yeah.
absolutely. And it requires non-judgment
Mhm.
and the sense of safety. So,
Yes,
think
that's
about
great.
the example that you gave of, sensing that this person was going to be reaching out to you.
Yeah.
If you judged that, you may, you know, judge yourself and start to think, I'm crazy, I'm imagining things or whatever it is that
Right.
we doubt
Mm.
ourselves, and don't see it as a gift. And then um, safety. If you weren't safe, like if you didn't feel safe, that there was no harm in having this insight,
Mm.
you wouldn't
Yeah.
allow it. You would resist it with everything you've got.
Yes, yes. And so, it's kind of like tying back to where we were at the beginning was our journaling, our time for reflection, our practice, this important practice is really connected to that sense of inner safety, inner security, and then our ability to be a better receiver. And ultimately, when you're a better receiver, right, or a more effective receiver, you also can be a more effective server or be in service to at a your higher level, right? So
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
all of this is so interwoven. What we're talking about, and I think when I think about why we're here, you and I talking, this beautiful work, beautiful life, is the idea of being willing, right, to prioritize doing this beautiful work in our lives and not simply, for the sense of, when we talk beautiful life, we're talking about feeling really good in your life, right? feeling like you're where you want to be, where you're supposed to be. Oftentimes, I feel like I am just where I'm supposed to be right now, you know, and supposed to as not in like I should, like, but just like this is the natural place for me to be existing in the world and doing what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful feeling to have when you wake up, in the morning and you're like, living the life I'm here to live, right? Yeah,
Yes. And it's so true when you think about allowing, and we talked about surrender in the last episode. How can we not just surrender but welcome, our authentic self and what we were born to do or be, right? Who we were born
right.
to be, and bring our gifts to the world in a safe way, or out of our own safety, we bring our gifts to the world. And a lot I talk with a lot of clients about the internal indicators versus external indicators that we are on the right path or we're doing what we were born to do. Um, because we spend so much of our life acting and being for external reasons, and we look to external indicators that we're doing the right thing.
Right,
Um,
right.
but the more self reflection practice we have, we can really hone in to internal indicators that give us more valuable information than any external indicator we will ever have.
Exactly, exactly. And I love, I just feel like there's can be so many examples of that, in your life, but you're the only one that will discover that. I talked about this in the last show, that idea of feeling like I had to go have that job at the women's center at the hospital. I don't know why, but I had to go there, and that was completely internal. There was nothing outside me that was indicating I should go get a part-time job as a receptionist at a hospital, right? Like that was not so but that ability to like listen, receive the sense of what is right for me, what is speaking to me, calling me, what I feel driven to go experience, and trusting it is a game changer for developing a quality of life that is beautiful to you and you alone,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes. And I have another story about that ties into the surrendering. Um, when I was probably, I'm going to say 30, 31. I had my sights set on a particular job, and I was so focused on this particular position in an organization that I knew my path. I had outlined what the next job was going to be in order for me to get the job I wanted.
Mhm.
And while I was in the what I considered to be the intermediate job, um, the job I wanted opened up 4 times. The first time it opened up 2 weeks after I moved into the intermediate job.
Right.
And I had to sit with it and say, that's the job I want. Am I ready? And each time it came up, I had to self reflect and really tap into my inner knowing. And the fourth time it came up, even though I was ready, what came through to me is, I'm beyond that job. That is
Wow.
not for me.
Wow.
And it
Yeah.
was it was just such an example of tapping into my inner knowing and really reflecting on where I was at this time in my life, who I was, and what was it about that job that would serve my highest and best purpose now,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
So it's
great.
so interesting, both of those examples of,
Yeah.
being drawn to something, or being able to just step back and reflect.
Yes, you reflect, and also being, having taken the reflection time and the time to be with yourself enough to know how to honor your inner signals, or those inner blinkers that are giving the indicator that what's right and what's not right for you, what's calling you, what is not on your path, your best path, right? And we can only do that by really having the time to be inside ourselves so fully that we recognize how our beingness is giving us the messages, right? And
Yeah.
this reflection time is a huge part of our ability to do that well. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Oh, that
love
was so good.
it was so good. And I want to mention I love Sonia Choquette. I followed her for a while years and years ago. She did a lot of work with intuition. I know she's got a bunch of books on it too out there, so I'll put her name in the show notes. Um, but one of the things that she was recommending, early on when there was a lot of first the videos were coming out and stuff, I was watching a lot of her stuff. But she was talking about, you know, uh, really saying aloud the messages that you get. Oh, I'm receiving a sense that I'm supposed to go to the bookstore today. All right, oh, why would I get that? I don't know, but I'm saying it out loud because what we're trying to do is again make a stronger connection to anything that's incoming and that we're receiving, and then start to really follow that thread and see where it's leading and what comes of it so that you can affirm to yourself how your being is speaking to you and the way that it's important to you. And only you can do that, right? By being that person that affirms it, that says it out loud, that follows it, that tracks like, where did this go, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I
Yes.
I I feel like it's such a but oh my God, what a fruitful, beautiful journey when we're willing to take the time to reflect and spend time with ourselves to really have this
Yes.
deeper understanding. You know,
Yeah.
makes for a really beautiful life, Laurel,
It
doesn't
does. It really
it?
does.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being with us today, friends, and we hope your journey of self-reflection brings you some beautiful, fruitful, juicy ideas and places to go and live into.
Yes. And so
Mm,
much joy. It will bring joy.
it will bring
Yeah.
joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Laura, we'll be back for more beautiful work, beautiful life really soon. Thanks for being with me today.
Thank you for being with me today.
All right. We'll see you next time,
Bye.
everybody. Bye for now.